welcome. I'll give a couple seconds for everybody to just get settled. Feel free to turn your camera on or off. All right, welcome. Welcome to our weekly Montessori Leadership Town Hall. This week, we are talking about planning successful parent education events. I'm Camilla. I'm the Community VP here at Montessori Thrive. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to our town halls. We host these every Thursday throughout the school year as a space for school leaders in the Montessori space to come together and discuss a variety of leadership topics. Before we get started on our presentation, I just want to share a couple of upcoming events. As part of our online community, we do lots throughout the school year to support Montessori schools. Currently, we are doing our classroom assistant workshops. So these are great for classroom assistants who may not have taken a lot of training before in the past, or maybe want to continue to take more training. They're 100% free to join. I'll share the link to this in the chat as well so you can access it. We had our first session this week, which focused on observation and the role of the assistant in the classroom. Next week, we're going to be having a presentation on understanding the Montessori approach and philosophy with Erin Palmer. And then we have one more session, October 7th, which will focus on positive discipline. So things that classroom assistants might benefit from knowing a little bit more about. We also have an upcoming parenting series. It is going to be from October 1st to the 22nd. Currently, I'm about to confirm our final speaker, but the topics include the science behind Montessori. We're going to have also another session on the power of play. And then we have the second session, which is going to be Montessori at home, parenting with insight and presence. It's looking like the October 22nd one will be about tantrums and power struggles. So that's most likely going to be our full lineup for October. This is 100% free to get your parents involved in. Again, I'll share the links in the chat shortly for that. And then if you're in the West Coast, we are coming in person to do a series of free in-person events. This is our information for those. So feel free to screenshot this, and I will again share the link to our West Coast Summit. We'll be in LA, the South Bay area, East Bay area, Portland, and Seattle in October. All right, let's get started on today's agenda, which is focused on parent education events. As always, our town halls are very much a collaborative space. So if at any point you want to unmute yourself to ask a question or share an idea, you can. You can also use the chat. We'll keep an eye on that. First, I'd love to get to know each other. And so feel free to kind of drop what school you're joining us from and why you joined today's call in the chat. I'll start with talking a little bit about parent commitments because I think this is always an important thing to talk about when it comes to any parent education events because it's sometimes challenging to get people to come. So it's good to set expectations early on. We also have parent handbooks, parenting classes and workshops, encouraging attendance, parent associations, platforms and resources, and creative ways to get families involved. And hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. First, as I mentioned, please let us know where you're joining from. You can drop in the chat and some specific areas that you're facing challenges when it comes to parent education events, if any. Keep an eye on the chat there for anything that comes through. First and foremost, I think it's very important to have a clear mission as a school. And I think it's always valuable to include something about the parent community in there because the parents are so important. And really, it comes down to when they know more about Montessori and our approach, they are going to be more aligned with our mission. So it's so valuable to set a foundation there early on so that parents are aware that their involvement is valued in the community. I always like to start with that. Parent commitment is something I have been encouraging schools to do for a while at these town halls. If you don't have any form of kind of parent commitment or a written document, I highly recommend doing something like this. It's not a formal contract because it's kind of hard to come up with a actual legal contract for parents to sign saying you have to come to events. But it's nice to have this as part of the enrollment process so that they understand why you have parenting events, why you need parent involvement in the community. Why is it beneficial for them to understand the Montessori approach so that, they're communicating similar things at home? So having something in writing always helps. And if they sign it, it's nice. Obviously, it's not going to be a legally binding contract, but it helps them to kind of actualize, oh, this is real. This is an agreement that I'm signing to, that I'm going to be here present within the school community. This is a sample of one that we have in the Montessori Thrive collection. I think if you're going to be hosting any number of parenting events, it's always good to have something like this. Feel free to screenshot it, or you can always visit our collection. It's there under parent commitment. You can also write your own parent commitment. But I think this really helps to highlight why you have parent education classes, why they're valuable, and encourages parents to just kind of have something in writing that they're agreeing to. This is also something that you can always pull out if a parent is not thriving in your community or has a lot of complaints, but you're not really seeing a lot of give on their behalf. You can always have a meeting and you can bring this out. You can say, we have these commitment agreements because there is a partnership between parent and school. And you can kind of go over it again. It always helps to have something that they would have signed previously. You can say in the meeting, we recognize this is not a legally binding contract, but it's an agreement and understanding of our partnership in working together towards the development of your child. So it's always a good thing to have here. Let's see here in the chat. All right, we have loads of people here from all over the US. It seems like consensus of attendance is a challenge. And that seems to be consistent. We've had this topic before at a town hall, and it seems to be kind of tricky sometimes to get parents to come in person. So hopefully we'll share some ideas here. But I do think setting a precedent or coming to an understanding early on always helps. So I recommend doing something like that. You can also come together with a philosophical agreement. This is kind of a step further that allows them to understand that they're signing up for a school. I think in the Montessori space, sometimes um, we struggle with the younger age groupings, that some parents might be under the impression that this works similarly to a daycare, especially for like our toddler programs or sometimes our primary programs. So just highlighting that this is what they're doing in the classroom. It's important and valuable work. This is not a service for when you need it. This is about creating consistency for the child. So having these things in place, again, they're not legal agreements necessarily, but hopefully they can help a parent understand what your needs are from their behalf. Let's see here in the chat, anything new? How to get ready for the parent conference. All right. So again, that's something I recommend. I do think there's a lot of value to setting precedents early and having kind of in writing something for parents to be able to understand where you're coming from and why you're asking this of them. And as I mentioned earlier, it always helps if there's an issue down the line or if there's a lot of complaints from a certain parent or you're just not seeing progress, you can always bring these documents out. I'd love to know if anyone is currently using a parent commitment form at their school currently or anything like similar to what I showed. And what information do you usually include? Do you talk about expectations for coming to parenting events or parenting classes? Maybe do you include a minimum number of classes that they have to attend? Let's discuss this a little bit before we move on to the next step. Or maybe this didn't work for your community. I'd love to know why. If that's the case, it's good to explore and see what other people have experienced.
Camilla, we don't have a commitment form like this. I just in looking at the first one that you have, I think it is a great idea. But seeing the like I will attend all parent ed nights, I think would automatically in our community be like, whoa, like I don't know if I can do all that. And so like everybody else, we always are trying to get parents hearing, get them involved. And one thing I did, which I think I got from a NITO meeting at some point, was made a big deal at our back to school night about part of being here is, you have all these opportunities, and we want you to take advantage of absolutely everything that we have, here at Lupine as part of your, sort of, I didn't say it this way, but like part of what you're paying for, just trying to make them see that that there's that value add of like, hey, you're already paying for this. So, you might as well take advantage. But I am curious about maybe digging into something more like that philosophical agreement because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and if you don't want, I think asking maybe parents to come to all parenting classes is a lot. Parents are busy, so maybe kind of if you're planning to do 5 parenting classes a year, maybe you ask parents, come to at least 2 that interest you if you can. We highly encourage. You can come to different ones every year, something like that. Finding a middle ground is also could be something. Work with parents too, be flexible. I agree with that. Anybody else has experience here? I see here in the comments. We don't use a form. We stress the importance of attendance to help them support their child during admission. I feel like a commitment form may scare parents. Okay. Here we have, would like to know if it's well received by the parents. Rupali says we don't use one currently, but are planning on implementing one next year. And you can play around with the language if you're scared of it sounding too pushy. I find that a lot of times AI is really helpful for this. You can run it through ChatGPT and say, how can I make this kinder or more sensitive to parents so that we're just expressing that we want them involved in some of the events. We host them for a reason. And maybe the philosophical approach might be um, more approachable to some communities rather than having an agreement of some sort. What can also help is maybe if you have a full calendar of all of the events that you have planned for the year, far in advance, so that parents can kind of block off their calendar or make plans accordingly. And you can say, we don't expect you to come to all of them, but if you could come to the ones that you feel would be the most valuable to you, we really highly encourage it because it makes the parent experience in our community so much better. Let's see here. Eunice says, I use the commitment form at the beginning of the school year with the community guide. It's good. You can also include it in your handbook somewhere and say, we just encourage parents to participate. But I think it's always good to have some kind of conversation about it when a parent enrolls. Yep, which leads me to my next point, which is parent handbooks. I think this is a great place to kind of add in a section about parent involvement at the school. And again, you can make it really gentle. You can make it really, not too firm, but just talk about the annual events, what's expected of parents. Maybe you have a class that you feel is really important that all parents should
Sorry, I thought
attend.
it was an insurance application.
Um, you can
That,
also talk about
shoot, you
how
filled that out. I already have it.
You can also talk about how often parents are expected to participate throughout the year, or also the importance of observation. I know that's another crucial thing is parents need to come in for observation. Um, Also, I do think sometimes a personalized approach is valuable. Like, for instance, if a parent comes in for an observation and a teacher really feels that a certain parenting class would be helpful, maybe there's a gentle way to communicate that, or, oh, I noticed this is happening and we're having a session on it. It'd be great if you attended. Of course, you have to be careful with delivery sometimes, but I think hopefully our parents are receptive to that. This is a sample of kind of a parent commitment clause that you can add into a parent handbook. Again, you can kind of edit it. You can find a tone that works for you. But it's always good to set those expectations and have it in writing. If it's not in the form of an agreement, maybe you can have it in the parent handbook because that's not something that they're necessarily always having to sign. Um, but just so that they understand our approach a little bit more. This is probably a little bit more aligned with the philosophical agreements. Um, I just like to talk about this a lot when it comes to events and attendance because this is where we can set those expectations before we run into the trouble of having to wrangle people up last minute to attend our events. All right, let's talk about parenting classes and workshops. I think this is probably one of the trickiest things. I noticed a lot of you said attendance for parenting events. And it's hard because we put a lot of work into developing parenting classes and workshops. They're not easy to produce, they take a lot of effort. So, how can we get parents to attend these workshops? I think effective communication is important. I also feel that a lot of schools already do these things, and sometimes it still doesn't result in the attendance numbers that we're looking for. I think providing clear and timely communication about upcoming events and classes through a variety of channels is always helpful. I think parents are using multiple platforms, whether it's email, text, social media. I also think it really helps to release an annual school calendar with all of the events marked in advance if you can do something like this. The reason why is oftentimes parents are having to plan things far in advance and they have to account for a babysitter if you're not allowing children at the event or if it's adult only. Um, and making this calendar easily accessible on your website is really helpful as well, or giving a printable version maybe of just parenting events that they can hang on their fridge so that they know what nights they might have to plan for. Um, as I mentioned, this is kind of, you can mention this in your parenting agreement. Maybe set a minimum requirement for attendance or participation. If you don't think that every parent can make every event, say, you have to come to at least 2 out of 5. You can pick which ones are interesting to you or which ones you think would be the most useful. But it's important because that way parents can connect with us. They can also come in and ask us questions. Um, and I still am a believer in utilizing flyers and creative reminders so parents don't forget. I think we're inundated with emails, SMS messages. Sometimes we ignore them or we say we're going to open them and then we don't get around to it and then it's too late. So if you're having a parenting event that you really want to increase attendance for, print out flyers and give them out at carpool or put them in if you send maybe folders and reports home for the children to give to their parents, you can include information there. Um, just find some creative ways to remind parents about any kind of in-person events. See here, Kelly shared, we just launched an app that had a great attendance at our last event that we don't normally. I think it's due to the push notifications I was able to send because the calendar dates and email reminders get buried. Yes, I agree. I think a lot of times as I just said, we're inundated with emails and messages. So it's good to know that an app is working for you. Kristen here says, we're starting a coffee with the head of school for an informal way of learning more about the Montessori pedagogy, answering questions about specific areas of the classroom, and possibly highlighting specific material each coffee meeting. We are also asking our parent involvement committee to run the same so they can talk to parents about it and invite them. I think that's really great because sometimes parents are looking for something more casual, something that's lower commitment, and reserving a whole evening off sometimes is a big ask. So that's working with the parent community. So I like that approach. Andre here says, we do have a calendar with our events listed for parents to view. I think that's great. Accessibility is another challenge. Oftentimes, both parents are working nowadays. It's not in every case, not in every household, or maybe we have a single parent household. So sometimes it can be tricky to access certain events. You can't find childcare options on time. Maybe these parents aren't living next to grandparents or community that can look after their children when they take the evening off to go to a parenting event. So it's good to offer a range of event times to accommodate different schedules, such as morning, evening, and weekend sessions. Um, Also, maybe provide both in-person and virtual options. It's always better to meet in person, but sometimes that's just not realistic for certain parents. So you can offer a number of Zoom events, or maybe you can record your events. Offer childcare options during meetings. I know we had this conversation in the past, and some school leaders said that they would open up, one of the classrooms and have a pizza dinner for the children while the parents were in another classroom taking the parenting course or learning and having a workshop. So it made life a lot easier because parents would know, okay, my child is in a safe place, they're having an activity, they're having dinner, and I'm learning something valuable. And when I leave, I can just do my bedtime routine as normal. So that could be a beneficial trade-off. For parents who can't attend the live sessions, or maybe if you're, giving parents a minimum requirement and they don't fulfill that, maybe ask them to um, fill out a form of notes or takeaways during sessions that you have recorded as kind of a filler for them not coming to in-person events, or maybe have a way to hold them accountable in some way. Let's see here. We have a couple more things in the chat. For evening events, we started offering childcare last year and had a wonderful feedback. Not super easy to pull off with staffing, but can be done with planning ahead. Yes. The school leader that joined us, I think this was last year or the year before, that shared that. She said that was a big factor in her increasing her numbers for the evening event. Tina here shares, we have parent nights listed in our calendar, but 6 weeks before the event, we ask for feedback about the topic and times, childcare, food, and it helps with buy and for planning. Absolutely. Always ask for feedback too. Can you please share a copy of this PowerPoint? Yes, I will be sharing. This PowerPoint will be posted on Montessori Thrive, which is free to join. If you don't have an account already, just go to montessorithrive.com. I'll be posting it there. And then I will also be posting this recording on the Montessori Thrive YouTube channel. So if you want to reference it later, you absolutely can as well. Um, all right. Another thing is personal invites. Um, I think this is effective nowadays. It could be something that goes home in those folders, or that you hand out during carpool. But I think it kind of goes back to our Montessori roots, kind of grace and courtesy, giving something out in person, something tangible sometimes is a little bit nicer. And we talked about how people are inundated with a lot of notifications, a lot of emails, texts. So sometimes this is a reminder that shows that you put a little bit more effort into recruiting parents to come to certain events. Um, I think it always helps to do things like this. Dolores says we started to do personal invites and it had a nice result. Tina said here, about charging for those childcare, but we cap the number. We don't charge for childcare, but we cap the number of children. That's a good approach. I guess it would, there you have to have a certain amount of staff members depending on the children that are going to be there. So I guess that makes sense. All right. Another big thing is parent ambassadors, and the person that shared about those coffee events, this kind of plays into that. I think sometimes let your parent community take things off your hand. And I think sometimes when a parent is leading something, they can connect with other parents and it makes your school look a little bit less pushy because it's coming from the parents rather than yourself. And it also allows you to delegate, and because I feel like school leaders do enough already. We do a lot of work day to day. So it's great to recruit those enthusiastic parents that are really thriving in your community to attend the classes, but also help you recruit parents, or maybe have them be handing out invitations at carpool. Have a parent volunteer and say, hey, before parents drive off, can you tell them about our parenting event? And if it comes from a parent, sometimes it it resonates a little bit more. It comes across as like less pushy because it's parent to parent rather than school to parent. Um, but they can help you pass out those flyers and encourage other parents to come. It doesn't always have to be, the school or yourself. So delegate a little bit. I also think that it's so valuable to have parent ambassadors at events, and these could be currently enrolled parents or maybe parents that have moved on but still love to volunteer at the school. I feel that this happens quite often at Montessori schools. Um, but yeah, have them there to answer questions or to help you organize or to help parents kind of get settled before a workshop. Because again, I think it helps to build a community element and it shows parents, oh, I could be more involved in the school. The school isn't running everything 100%. Um, so I recommend that. Dolores here shared, we do a parent-led fundraiser per year, and the parents have done a great job at encouraging new and other parents to attend events. They also started a community WhatsApp. See, this is great. You can even have them lead a community Facebook group where you're promoting events. Um, and I like the idea of them planning and executing events because again, they're that's buying into something with their time. They're going to be passionate about getting other parents to come and other parents will see that as a way for, oh, I could be doing more to be involved with the school. This brings me to collaborative planning. I think again, when parents feel that they have a certain say over the topics and they have some type of buy-in, they're more likely to be involved. Maybe you have a parent committee that helps you select topics or vote on topics, dates, and formats. So, you can run feedback surveys, which I think is really valuable, but also you can involve parents in the planning. Maybe you can say, okay, we're for sure going to have a parent workshop on this specific topic, but we have some flexibility. What would you like to discuss this year? And you can present it to the committee and you can let them pick and you can let them help you promote it. I think this is a great way to, again, get the buy-in from parents, let them have a little bit of control about what topics are being discussed. If a parent is selecting a topic or the topic that they wanted to get selected, they're going to be much more likely to show up to that event. So that's another recommendation I have. It also takes a little bit off your plate, hopefully, because usually parent education, as I mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, it's a lot of work to come up with these workshops, and it feels like, it's just always looming over us because it is an important part of running a school. You need parents to understand the Montessori approach, but it can be a lot. I also think it's important to host parent socials or just have events that sometimes aren't geared towards learning. Some feedback that we got when we discussed this topic in the past is when everything is like a parenting workshop, parents sometimes walk out of those events feeling like they're inadequate or, oh, I could be doing so much better. So, yes, we're here to offer support and some of the classes, hopefully you walk away with new strategies or ideas that you can implement into your home. But also sometimes it's nice to just build community and connection. And when parents are making friends at the school, when they're engaging with other families, they also then have more buy-in to go into future events. So sometimes it's nice to just host events that are not necessarily parent workshop related. Things like a book club, maybe you have a parenting book club or just something, a little bit more fun for parents to attend. The coffee meets was a great one. A potluck, maybe you can do this at the beginning of the year for parents to get to know one another. Any kind of fair or festival that your school might have, I think is great. Please feel free to share if anyone else has hosted recently a parent social that was really successful. Has anyone done anything recently?
Camilla,
We
this is Wally. Uh,
Yep.
we normally host what we call the welcome breakfast at the beginning of the year. And we have done that every year, and that's quite well attended. And that's when many of the parents get to meet one another, especially the new ones.
Hmm.
And so we have had good luck actually getting people to come to that one. Besides that, we have a few others. We have what we call Fall Festival coming up. We have another one in spring called Love Around the World. And then I think, not 100% sure, I think Sarah hosts book club or our coffee meets together, talk about different subjects and all that. So usually get about 8 or 10 people coming, moms coming in, which is okay. We don't expect too much. So potluck we have never done because that seems like still a lot of work, but we haven't done that.
I guess it all depends on how big your community is, because yeah, some events are going to be a better fit for other schools, but it's good to know the breakfast works. Yeah, sometimes with those fun social or light events, people are a little bit more willing to come, especially at the beginning of the year. You can maybe work your way up to the parenting courses. Um,
Camila, I like Wally, we did the breakfast we hadn't done the breakfast earlier. We did it this year and it worked out very well. And we also had we have an annual potluck, which used to be on Sundays, and now we moved it to a weekday. And we called it Classroom Uncorked. And we started with kind of like a cocktail. It was a potluck of hors d'oeuvres. We ended up with way too many hors d'oeuvres. Next year we can tweak it a little bit, but everybody brought a bottle of wine. And then the wine that we have left over, we are using for it to make a basket for our fundraiser. But it was extremely well attended, I think. And we did this one in the evening during the weekday just to try something new versus a Sunday. And it was nice to see a lot of new parents coming and other parents who had come in the past. And I think those two events were quite well attended. And then our fall festival, which is coming up October 31st, we do the Festival of Nations. That's usually the best attended festival that we have. But I feel like those are good places to start.
Great. I see here in the chat a couple of other great ideas. Kristen shared pasta night every September. We have an alumni student who's practicing his DJ skills and set up craft tables run by alumni as well. This has been our highest attended event for the last 2 years. Kelly here shared every year we host a Taste of Fury, and it's huge, centered around the diversity of our community. People bring food from their culture, make table displays, traditional dress, dance, music, etc. It's tomorrow this year, so very busy week for us. That sounds like a really great event. And usually those are the ones that people get excited to go to. Jill, we did a coffee and connect for back to school, and it went very well. We have 3 campuses. Our other campus does a festival that seems to be successful for them. We also try to plan these events during the school hour with advance notice so teachers don't need to do too many weekends. Yes. And then Claudia here shows we're going to visit a farm in October. Very excited to see the school there, children, parents, and staff. Usually those are the events that are pretty easy to get people to come up to, especially when you're promoting them, you're giving notice. It seems like you're being pretty mindful of working schedules as well. So yeah, I highly recommend having a couple of these throughout the year. Usually that gets people excited to be a part of the school. And sometimes, even though parents might not attend parent education classes, if you host enough of these events that are social, they're still building connection with your community. And maybe you can find ways to inform or educate at these events in a informal or casual way that is a little bit more relaxed. We probably hear we host a welcome picnic on the first Friday of the school right after school, and it was well attended where parents and teachers get together in our playground. It's an informal event. Absolutely. These are all good ideas. Thank you for sharing. I think recognition is another piece. Recognize and appreciate parents' involvement and attendance. Express gratitude for their support and contributions to the school community. If they're coming to all of the parenting nights, please recognize them and, personally say, we're very, very honored to have you at all of our events. It means a lot. Feel that it's so valuable. Do you feel like that what you've learned this year has been helpful to you? Give them a chance to talk to you, listen to them, make them feel that connection. You can also create some consequences for families who don't attend parenting events. What I mean by this is, if a parent is not thriving in your community, or you notice that their child is not thriving and they're not coming to parenting events, this is something that you can absolutely bring up during observation meetings or one-on-one meetings. Maybe you can encourage them or invite them to come to an event next year. or maybe you can ask them, how can we make these events more accessible to you? Can we have them on Zoom? Would you rather watch a recording? Sometimes that works out as well. All right. Before we move on, I would love to kind of know a couple of tips or what has helped you to increase attendance to parent events in the past, or maybe some things you're planning to do this year. I know we shared a lot of good ideas already.
We did, I mean, everybody shared all kinds of great ideas. But one thing that we did this year, uh, which was really, well, we really did it last year, but just in our feedback that we were asking for at the end of the year, we pulled those things out and said, I've done this for a couple of years now. Hey, we heard what you said. We listened to what you had to say. You're asking for this, you're asking for that. And so that's made a difference in just, again, the buy-in of like, oh, I was one who had that idea, or I was the one who said I really wanted, parent meetings to be on Friday nights. So, and now they're having them on Friday nights. So that does seem to help. And, having that, for us as a team, we will come together and say, okay, what are we seeing? We just in our classrooms and in our community, what are some things we really want to drive home? And then what are some maybe novel ways of doing it? And then we send that out, like we parents, hey, here are 3 things we're thinking of for the parent night that's coming up. And that, again, it's about buy-in, but just having that little trickle in before it happens, it just makes it more at the forefront of their mind. Being able to choose and then finding out, what most people wanted. And then, so it helps a little bit.
Thank you, Tina. Yeah, you can, I think involvement in the decision making is always good. Dolores here shared this is an interesting one. To reward parents that come to our parent night, they have an opportunity to sign up for observations and conferences early. That's a good point. They get priority in picking their observation date and time. So that's a good one. Laura here. We have several all school events, but we will be new to parent events this year. This is all excellent information. I'm glad you're finding this helpful, Laura. Audrey here says we have an open house coming in October and a curriculum night as well. Okay. I think curriculum nights are always exciting, and usually parents are interested and they're important too, because it's nice for them to see what their child is doing in the classroom. Sometimes parents don't really understand Montessori unless they went to Montessori themselves. So it's good for them to see the materials at work or just what their child will be learning that year. Carla here says, we offer childcare and dinner. Childcare is provided by our staff and admin on a rotating basis. Dinner is provided by our parent hospitality committee. Both incentives are given as a courtesy to our parent ed attendees, but also are difficult to manage and put together. We can't offer childcare if we don't have enough staff coverage, for instance. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I guess it also limits the amount of events where you can offer that, because you can't be doing 6 parenting events throughout the year like that, or maybe you do. That's a lot of work. And yeah, and maybe that's something that you can express to parents early on, is that hospitality and or some form of volunteer participation is heavily encouraged. But I think that's a great offering, definitely to have, and I'm sure improves attendance to these events. We talked a little bit about this, but I really do think that having a parent association or committees of some sort helps a lot with attendance and just the success of overall events. Clarity is always great. I think ensure that parents are well informed about the existence, purpose, and benefits of any committees or parent associations. Use various communication channels if you can, newsletters, emails, the school website to share information, and make it really easy for parents to get involved. Maybe you have an orientation and maybe you have multiple committees, and encourage parents, when they come in for orientation, if you can join a committee, please do, because we need as many volunteers as we can. Join one that interests you if you have the capacity to do that. Um, I think a welcoming environment usually, so this is something that Montessorians do really well. I feel like this is not a challenge for us. Typically, we do create these beautiful spaces for parents to thrive. It's good to have some type of code of conduct or make sure that your mission is really clear at any committee or parent association meeting, and make sure families understand the purpose and goal of these associations, which is for parents to live and breathe your mission, which is to have children that are thriving in the community and to support one another. So I think that is important to have clear. Um, oh, Tina gave a really good point in the chat. Sometimes we use high schoolers who volunteer regularly for us as well as alumni to help cover childcare. I really like that. Or maybe have, yeah, like past alumni who have maybe aged out of the program. I think that could be a good one too. Onboarding kind of parenting association or committee members is important too. I think you can also have a current parent do this, someone who's been in that committee for many years, but it's always good to have kind of a list or a structure for how these meetings go or for how you do things throughout the year, a checklist. If you give parents like a system of operations for how you do certain things, that is very clear and helps them. A list of contacts, that, for instance, if you're having parents plan a fundraiser, like Dolores mentioned, you have a list of sponsors that you usually go to for them to contact, or you have an order for them to do things. That way, when new parents take over, it's very clear what they need to do, and it's very easy for them to get involved. Those things are really helpful to have in place. If you need resources for this, we have a couple of things like Parent Association bylaw samples available in the Montessori Thrive collection. And again, it's 100% free to join that. And you can download any of those resources there for free. I think offering diverse opportunities is also good because not every parent will have the time or bandwidth to step up to lead a committee, but you can have small ways for them to volunteer, interact with the school, and that still will act as a buy-in. They contributed something that was valuable and they feel more connected to the community. So think of multiple ways that families can contribute, whether it's material making or, maybe it's providing food for an event that they might not be able to come to in person and they can deliver it in the morning when they drop off their children. There are many ways a parent can help the community from home remotely. Some parents, they might have the time and flexibility to attend more in-person events. So, kind of offer a variety of things and see, try to meet parents where they are. I think that always helps. Let families know that even a little goes a long way in helping the school. So if a parent doesn't have the capacity to be fully involved, there can still be ways. Dolores here says, we send a volunteer form at the beginning of the year with various ways for them to help. I think that's great. Give a variety of options. Some can be remote, some can be in person, some can be after school, some can be during school, so that parents can kind of find where they fit. Highlight the benefits. So clearly communicate the benefits of participating. I think this is something that can be done early on, but talk about, it's important for you to get to know other parents, gaining insights into the school activities, having a positive impact on the overall school community, and making friends and connecting with a wider community of parents and caregivers. I do think people are really craving community, especially when it comes to raising children. So if your school can help facilitate that, it can be great. Sometimes, traditional schools or large public schools that we might be competing with for students, it can be hard because those communities are so large. Montessori school communities tend to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more of a niche. So sometimes that can be an advantage for us, and we can build community and we can help build or facilitate relationship building between parents. So I think that's always a benefit. What do you do to build a stronger parent association? Does this help with parent involvement in your community? I know you guys have already been sharing some good tips here. But if there's anything else that you'd like to share or add. I think using as many platforms as possible to reach families can also help you maximize involvement. Here in the chat, another volunteer opportunity we have is for parents to share expertise either directly in the classroom or as a going out option for elementary students. That's a great one too. I do recommend promoting any and all events wherever you can and continuing to find creative ways to do so. I know most of you are probably already posting things on your website, texting, emailing, but flyers, social media, banners in front of the school for big events that you're trying to promote, maybe like open houses, email newsletters, face-to-face reminders, personal invitations, anything that you can do to be creative, I think to get the word out there doesn't hurt. Let's see here in the chat. Visitor of the month if they are community workers. That's another a good involvement point. Again, if you need resources, you can go to MontessoriThrive.com. It's free. There's loads of stuff in here in our collection that you can download. If you can't find something, you can request it. But there's things like the parent communication templates, agreement templates, the handbook samples, enrollment agreements, parenting courses. Also, if you're a Neato Marketing graphic design subscriber, we can help you make social media posts, calendars, website pop-ups, flyers, banners. So please make the most of that service. We're here to support you. All right, I'll open it up to any other questions or ideas here. Dolores shared we have parent share. We have had some very interesting topics presented by parents to the children. I think that's great too. Or maybe have like I guess that's a way to kind of get parent ambassadors on board, get them to share.
I have a question, Camila, for anyone that would like to answer this. I feel like, and it may be a recurring problem for most schools, but I feel like we have a community sense in our school, and many parents do attend certain things, but there's always those parents that we cannot reach. And we are doing the invitation, the flyers, the communication folder, and but there are a handful that kind of it's hard to reach them, and they do not attend these events. They've had siblings here, so it's not like they don't like the school because the younger sibling does come. However, they do not get involved, as they do attend a couple of events, but for example, the parenting classes, which is a big thing for me, they're probably the ones that should attend the most, but they don't. So if anyone has some ideas on how to reach families, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Dolores, I think that's when you go, oh, we're having this event. Can you help and set up chairs? Or can you bring crackers? So sort of like, oh, this isn't, just finding a different way for them to need to be there. That's not so much about that, but yeah, sometimes there are just parents that you don't see. I like to be direct, like, oh, I see you haven't been able to, you weren't able to come. What can we do? to make this more accessible for you. So they kind of have to tell you a reason, whether it's I work evenings or even, I mean, we have received, oh, I've heard all that before, right? But then at least we know where their mind is and what, you know, a way that we can try to attract them to it.
That's a good point, Tina. Thank you.
I do have a thought on that. You might, since some of these are parents that maybe have been in your school for a long time, you could approach them and say something like, "You are one of our longest parents that we have had, and I could really use your help. You know, since you have been here for so long and you know the school and you know, I could really use your help because I just really need somebody that I don't have to babysit into helping me out." You know, just kind of get them involved that way so that they feel super important. You know, I don't know, maybe that might work because
Yeah.
I've had parents like
Yes.
that. So, you know, that might be a good one. And I've not done any straight on parent events. All of my school events, we always have those parents that never show up, but most of our parents do.
Mhm.
But because it's usually it's an all encompassing school event. That's kind of how we do things. But we're going to try to get some other events. So this is good. But yeah, so I don't know, just
Thank you.
yeah, that's my advice.
I mean, it is not unusual for parents who have been in the school for many years, and especially when they've had siblings in the school, that they would be less involved than those who are there for the first time. I mean, it's basically the mindset is, I've seen it all. There's not much to really do, and we are very busy. And some of them just treat the school as a daycare. I mean, that's basically what they like the school. It's not that they don't like the school, but they have a different mindset. And no matter what you say, the excuse will always be, oh, we are very busy, we're struggling, the two working family, you know. And typically daycare, they are the ones who have two working people in the household. So that's something that you have to just accept, that there'll be certain fraction that you just won't be able to reach a whole lot for one reason or another.
True. True, Molly.
Any other questions or ideas on this topic before we wrap up?
I do have one question. Those of you that have like parent-teacher organizations, do you find, we don't have one, and this is something that we have struggled with starting and then deciding not to do it. And does anybody have, I mean, any cons as far as these are the things that, you know, maybe some things that you need to look out for, or things that, you know, like negative aspects of that? Because that's just kind of where we're pulling more towards the negative side of that, and I'm not real sure why. But I know that we touched on that just a little bit. So if anybody has any wisdom or thoughts on that.
Laura, we're a nonprofit, so we have a board of directors, and we're very cautious about that because parents sometimes get confused between a parent co-op and what a nonprofit is, and you also want to keep that line, right, where it is the school and the board making the decisions, and then but they are helping. So that's why I think the way our school decided to tackle that is we have that once a year fundraiser where it is a parent-led event, and that's the only event. And there's, like Camila was mentioning in her, we have certain bylaws or rules that they have to kind of go by, where there's a school liaison, so they get things approved because the school's name is on the solicitations and things that go out from the committee. But it's through the years, I think the parents kind of started having a need for more of community. So that's where the WhatsApp group started. I'm one of the admins. I don't get involved in the messages, but I just kind of like oversee just to be aware, and there are some rules. But what I can see from the past few years that we've been doing this, it does get the parents more involved and excited to give feedback. So I get a lot of feedback. I may not use all of it, but it's good to hear it and see their perspective. And I think it helps me in making certain decisions or change some things for like the parenting classes or so. I think if you have the bylaws written out, and I have to mention, we are a small school. So it may be different if you have a large school, but just to make that, we're not a parent co-op. The board makes the final decisions for the school.
I would
Thank you.
agree with what you're saying, Dolores. It's been, it's a bit of a slippery slope, right? And so our school goes through 8th grade, even though we're relatively small, one classroom for every program. So we've got 90 students here. Parents want to be involved, and Camilla was saying that I think people want community, and that's actually been the number one thing that our community has been saying for the last 2 years. Like, we really just want to be together and do things. But when we had a group of people that were like, oh, we're going to put a parent association together and we're going to do it, it started, morphing into this other thing that wasn't really aligned with who we were as a school or who we are as a school, and not aligned with what I call the lupine way, right? Oh, that's not how lupine does it. So then it was COVID, right? And then we had someone who was like, well, I want to be the chair of, this parent association group. And then really nothing happened and there wasn't support, so not only was it not aligned with what we were doing, but it was detrimental. So this year we just sort of revamped everything and said, we call ourselves a lupine parent community. So there's not a person who's the president, vice president, treasurer, that kind of thing. Parents have experience with being room moms or having had room moms, and so they want to be room moms. And our teachers are like, "What? Like, I don't know what to do with a room mom. We're not having a Halloween party and a Valentine's party and a Thanksgiving party." So, if everyone who's a room mom is part of that pack, and that leadership pack, and then we have someone who's a philanthropy steward, someone who's a hospitality steward, someone who's an events coordinator, and then someone who's a family mentor. So then this way, we have help in coordinating events, and they reach out to other people and we talk about it all together, and it helps me get in touch with sort of the pulse of what parents are saying they need and want. And there's ways for people to get involved, but it's not really that, to the initial question, it's not exactly a formal association. But we do have a volunteer code of conduct that we ask everybody to read and sign, no matter what their capacity is. I hope that helped.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for asking great questions and sharing ideas. I think this was a really collaborative town hall, and it's always great when they're that way. I'm sharing my email address there. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want to request any topics. I'm very open to hosting anything that you all need to talk about. So I'm open to any suggestions that would be helpful to the wider Montessori leadership community. Also, if anyone would ever like to speak at one or present or lead a conversation, please feel free to reach out to me. Next week, we're having a conversation on word of mouth marketing and structuring referral programs and parent ambassador networks that work. So we're going to talk about that top to bottom. If you're interested in that, we look forward to seeing you back next week. I'll be posting the recording to this as well later on today, and we'll be sending it out in our Friday newsletter. So if you want to reference this presentation, you can do so there. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.